Hey, Frank, I have a question.
Go for it.
Um, Sometimes different speakers will describe what's appearing as a dream or an illusion or real and unreal simultaneously. And there is a wondering of, it's almost confusing why that's even important it's almost like trying to put an explanation on what is or trying to define it. But I'm curious as to your own, well, your own perception of that, of the thing about, is this a dream, an illusion, or whatever?
See, I think dream is laden down with lots of images associated with. So when dream is said or heard, then it's dream, sleeping, whatever. And illusion seems to be a word that's used also, and that this is an illusion. And sometimes they give the impression that then that there is something once removed from what is. What is just wonderful in its simplicity, as words. Dream seems to have associations, with it. I think the real and unreal, in a way, is a kind of a way of describing the non-hypnotic lost in words and making everything real. So it's real and unreal is a good way of kind of describing the uselessness of words,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps. So it's like the meaning in everything falls out of everything. So there's just what is, and it's nobody's what is, and there's nobody to know or left to know what is. But words like dream is used. Awakening to the Dream was Leo Hortong's book, and I really loved that. But in a way, it's awakening to the death of awakening. There's no awakening. There's no liberation. There's just, just jazz hands, waving hands.
Yeah, that kind of works. I don't know. I just sort of think sometimes the labeling of it or trying to explain it obscures the obvious, or just obscures the immediacy of whatever's appearing.
But you see, you're kind of in an impossibility, because even obvious is a killer word too, because it's like, I'm stupid if I'm not seeing this. Where not seeing this is this. That's the inexplicableness. Not seeing this is already this. So, it's not like you can't do this wrong or name is wrong, but there are certain words that, seem to zoom for the mind and have a lot of heldness to it. There's a lot of images then. And so words like dreams and illusions, I don't seem to use them. But I am. It's just, they're just more words. You can't get further away. There's no once at peaceness from separate from over there that's going, oh, it's all an illusion. Just getting out of the way of if there's a bus hurtling towards you. It's just ordinary this, ordinary whatever is. And it's, you see, words are impossible because for the label making machine, everything is objectified to know it, to feel safe. So then what is, oh, sure, it's ordinary this then. It's just this. And it's everything.
So that includes even if we were to say the words are obscuring this, but that's this too. Even the obscuration is.
There's no obscuring anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if there's confusion, then that's what it is, and then it comes back to, well, there's nobody doing that. That's just what is then,
Right. So I guess my other question too is, when one says that there isn't, that one can't know, and I know there's no one to know, but it sounds like to know something is like what does it mean to you when you might say you're clueless or you can't know anything?
I suppose it's just words expressing the inexpressible, the cluelessness, the nothing held. You know, if this was something that could be explained or shared or given, then it would have a kind of a way of binding it by a few words, and there would be ways of describing it, and it would be able to be pointed to. And, you know, and this is beautifully, stunningly, and sorry for those words, but uncatchable, untouchable. But you know, this is as then saying it's untouchable and uncatchable. That's what is, you know. And if it could be like, this is as words, right? So everything is in as words, and it's you know, you're bound within the constraints of language being used, but it's just the no word touches the sentence or the hearing of the sentence. No word touches the hearing of the sentence. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
so nothing touches this, and yet it's everything though. So and I suppose then what this is a sort of a sharing about that, and that's a load of words there, the sharing about that, but it's just the cluelessness of this, and the wonder. You see, wonder and makes it all seem so wonderfully carrot. You know, the person will always hear that is wonderful, but whatever, what can you do? It's wonderful that nothing can be held or bound by words, and that it's not a thing. And it's just as this mouth blabbering, and actually really what the mouth is trying to say is that this really is nothing happening, not a thing that can be known, that's nothing happening. It's a kind of a, you know, you'd probably squeal like a kid if it was, you know, that's, if there was a way to describe this, just, but other words are used then.
Right. Well, thank you. That there was a lot of clarity in your speaking. I appreciate
Shit.
that.
Thank you for questions. Gareth is asking, hi Frank, if one is caught up in an awful this, such as the war in Ukraine, would your message be insensitive? I think this can definitely be rip-roaringly insensitive. It appears rip-roaringly ferocious sometimes, because it just doesn't, but it also is the total hearing of whatever is. Then if there was, you know, a conversation about Ukraine and somebody was in dire straits, then there'd be the total hearing of that, and then whatever response to that. So it's not once removed. It's a description of just the unfathomableness of this. And that's all it is. It's not definitely an antidote to being alive. It's the opposite of wisdom. It's the recognition that this is totally free, and it's the theater of dreams and nightmares, chaos, hell, and just nothing. So it's whatever, you see, in a way, story, the word story can be heard as, oh, it's just a story, everything's just, you're saying it's just a story. It's where there's a gazillion different versions, a gazillion different stories happening, appearing, and they come and go, and it's just all these different in versions of this, and yet this is just this. So it's not the denial of anything. It's not. It's nothing to do with peace. It's nothing to do with. It's full on edgy, aliveness, and that is everything. Then everything is possible, and all the while, it's just this. So that would be that question. Then is what is then. Totally useless.
It almost seems that you have to find yourself in a comfortable position before you can maybe understand the message.
Yeah, so far removed from the idea of understanding, because that is like licking the world through a pane glass window, and it's so utterly dissatisfying, because all there is then is that kind of understanding, and that understanding is lost as words in words, wanting words to be, want to be getting it then through the words, and yet it's impossible to get because it is the attempt to get. And so suffering and starving would be this. And the idea of being comfortable, and I just I can't really say because like this is just this. So for the wind to go out of the sails and for this just to be this, it's always just this. So imagining that it's about comfort for this to be seen, then that's what is. But you don't need to do anything or be anywhere or go any to get to what's happening. There's just what's happening. There isn't you and that already. So in a way, any commentary about like Ukraine is just another attempt with, to do. It's just another bullshit version here, any attempt to talk about Ukraine or whatever. It's just another opinion. Whereas this is nothing to do with opinions. But yeah, there's opinions about this. Or opinions appear about this. But it seems to be the case that the idea of some sort of storyline that has drama in it, so sitting on a chair and the mouth and sounds being heard, or the hearing of sounds is kind of, yeah, I know what you're saying, like, but can I give us give me something else, and that's like there is a gazillion different storylines, and if you unplugged from mainstream media, there'd be the storylines of family and work and all that, and then if you went and lived in a cave, there would be just getting food and whatever else, and all the while this is just kind of, yeah, just having a go, I suppose, about the unfathomableness of everything, the storylessness of everything. Chris is asking, the question of a parent self or no self seems like it can quickly become a concept and something to look for. Why is that part of the message? Why not just what is? Yeah, there is a storyline about everything is images. So then what is can be an image though too, you know? So, okay, it's just what is. I'm trying to hold what is. That can be another image. And then, so then that's everything fully as seeking an image. And so then, you know, why is self and no self talked about? Yeah, already there is no self. And the storyline about liberation and loss of self, you know, there's a mentioning of, because there is a felt reality of somebody looking, and I feel like a somebody here who can know this. And that's the predominant, in a way, that's the predominant movement about everything and anything, whether it's non-duality or the sugar-coated donut. It's the spiritual seeking is a little bit better. That one is coated with some sort of a goodness associated with it and virtuous. But, you know, but there is the feeling of I am here and there's a world out there. That is what is described in a lot of cases. Now, the extent to which that's held, that's it is, and the conviction behind it is really, you know, that's just playing out then. And this then just comes back to, well, that's how it is then, you know. So, and there isn't a message really, you know, there isn't really anything being communicated, but then there is a total aversion to this idea of prescription or authority, or, you know, that somebody can know something. So then the freedom of this is just that it's, you know, just this with nothing to be said about it. And yet the mouth keeps blabbering. So.
Hi, Frank.
Hiya.
It's Lindy.
Hi, Lindy.
Hello. Just an observation, really, and nothing personal, but you wouldn't take it personally. But I just realised I've been sitting here for half an hour watching you, listening to you, and I actually haven't heard a word as a me. I don't think it's just I've just kind of glazed over. Yeah, which in some ways feels quite nice, because it's like my mind has stopped trying to grab onto every single detail. But yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, probably neither.
Yeah. There isn't a good or a bad. It's just a description of what is happening. And you can't do it wrong or right. It's just you're not doing it.
I know. I very rarely have any questions anymore. I've been on this trail for quite a long time, I think, and apparently. And yeah, I just seem to not really listen to the words anymore. So anyway, it's very delightful being here, and I feel quite sort of mesmerized by the screen. So having said all that, you're doing something right.
It's the bald, it's the baldness, the light coming from the bald head. Dave has asked his question. Does the loop of knowing seem to run out of energy to get this? You see, there's no getting this, but the loop of that seeking to know this just stops. And then there's just what's appearing. But it's exactly the same. Exactly the same. Yeah, there's the potential to be I was gonna say it's the potential to be a bigger asshole, but then that sounds like something. There's just nothing. There's just no difference. But the loop, that frenetic sort of loop to know and gnawing away to try and get this, that just stops. And then there's the imagination of, well, what would that be like? Well, it would be just like exactly what is then. And there isn't like suddenly, you hear things like there is uproarious laughter. Well, uproarious laughter can appear to happen. That can be, but you can't do the reactions. So you don't do any finding, but you're not doing any seeking. There's just, just the description, just whatever is being described then. And maybe this tries to cut through all the images. You could say that because the images are held really. The loop is, seeking an image of what it would be like to be no self. That can be, or you must be better, it must be great. So that's the held image, and that's sought after. And then this, what we're talking about here is just seems to say, well, that's how it is then, because there's nothing that can fix anything. There's just, what would fix anything? There actually is nothing to be fixed, but that can also be really annoying to hear because, well, whatever, there's an energy for that to want to be not the case. So for seeking not to be the case is what is then. Still, that's just what it is then. Or that is what is being described. That's entailed, perhaps. But nobody's doing it.
Hey, Frank.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, in the, I would say in the story of your character, um, were there like teachers or teachings that sort of resonated within the character? And I know, I know it's just a story, but sort of what was the clarity or whatever? Was it always there, or was there a resonance with things that may have contributed? And I know that's not really, I'm not really talking about cause and effect, but I'm just curious.
Well, you see, there, in a way, because this is always known, it has to be so beyond words that it has nothing to do with knowing, or, you know, this sudden immediacy is how it is. But, you know, there is this whole lost in concepts because there is such certainty around, you know, if suddenly there is a thing, and there's a thing called world and life, and you're in the body doing everything and doing it wrong, some days doing it right, other days apparently, because that's what you've been told. And then, you know, there's a movement to kind of get to a better place, because everybody else around you is talking about that, and life advertises itself as life and as a way. And so, you know, in my early 20s, the immediacy just was the immediacy without any words, just this, that this was something appearing to happen, just kind of, and hands and the voice and sounds, that was just kind of walking down the street, and I was just, I don't know, and, you know, trying to talk to anybody about, you know, just this is just impossible. And then there's also a feeling of sort of insanity around all that, because, you know, there was no words. There's no words for this, no words for that, the immediacy. And so then later, you know, I think, you know, I stumbled across Eckhart Tolle and things like that, and I thought, oh wow, isn't that beautiful German voice? It's just mesmeric, and lost in here to fulfill the divine purpose of the universe. I loved that. Oh my God, it was just beautiful. That wow, this is not this. This is something I'm not seeing. So I'm, you know. So then there was lost in that, but all the while, you know, lost in loads of kind of ways for this to be somehow known and explainable. You know, there was a kind of a heavy movement that it must be known and explainable. And a sort of like, because, you know, a bit of a go-getter, you know, trying to meditate. And, you know, there was Osho's book of 1,000 meditations. I refer to this because I tried a fair few of them. And I was just so shit at it. And then, you know, and there's sort of a kind of a, I don't know, I didn't like the idea of this being holy. You know, I tell the story of, you know, The Simpsons, and Homer being lost up in a plane, and he starts saying, God, I'm really answering this long, but sure, anyway, that's how it is, right? But Homer's up in a plane, he's been taken away, and he goes, Jeebus, help me. And I just couldn't stop laughing. And because I'd grown up in Catholic Ireland, it's totally sacrilegious to take the holy name of God in vain. One thing, you can't be saying Jesus, and then you can't get it wrong. And then I remember when I was very young thinking, well, if God's not laughing at that, if Jesus is not laughing at that, then I don't want anything to do with them, because it has to be this anarchic laughter. And so then I didn't like holy. And then one day I just read the words on Amazon, because I thought, well, there was something to get, you know, has to be something to get. Everybody's saying there's something to get, and somebody must know. And then I just read there is no one that can be enlightened. There is just no one, no self. Oh, I just thought, what the fuck is that? Wow. Yeah, what? And then I saw Tony Parsons and I hated Tony Parsons. And then the same breath of an exhale, inhale and exhale, and I went, wow, it's totally unconditional love to offer absolutely nothing. You'd be stoned for that, really. And then obviously it's all a story, but she fucking everybody loves stories. And I think I went to Tony for a weekend, absolutely hated it, found it absolutely starving. It starved every inch of what I thought, you know, was in the attempt to know this. And of course, then you sure all the rest is kind of like, obviously there was a passion then after that weekend, there was a kind of a, you know, kind of a feeling that whatever we're talking about is just, you know, includes total uncomfortableness, includes everything, it has to be everything, can't be over there. But yet, you know, still, so then obviously the rest is like podcasts, trying to, somebody must be able to explain this. But then there was real kind of energetic sensing of an energetic sensing of bullshit and kings and queens and characters and rich wise people, because it had to be inexplicable, this. And yet that went on and on and on, and then just nothing is, that all stopped. All of that stopped. All the wanting to know this, get this, all that just came to a, seemed to come to an end, you could say, and that's already saying too much. The loop of me came to an end, and it was, this is a terrible story now, so, you know, but the loop of me came to an end, and all the while there was no start to the loop and no end. And then, so what do you say? Well, what's the reaction to that? Well, the reaction was, well, what's the reaction to this? What the fuck? That's what the reaction was. What the fuck? And then driving down the road, there you go. Is that what you asked me? You, Saeed has asked, you don't know what a smile is. I don't know what anything is. But then smile is the word for smile, isn't it? It's lovely. But yeah, you don't know anything, yeah. It's just smile. That's the agreed word. See, in a way, it's kind of stunning, the story, because the story is just story, and it's, you know, told gazillion different ways at any gazillion one time, but it's so obviously, wonderfully a story, you know. But that's just then it's we should have thrown in a bit of drama in there.
Hey, Frank.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like, to me, what happens in these meetings and other meetings is kind of like the I guess the most that seems to happen is kind of the illumination of of the position of the seeker, and kind of how fucked it is to just be constant, like everything's a story, everything's kind of laden down with concepts, but at the same time there's like the knowing of that, like knowing, seeing like the story, like kind of nature of the way that I see everything. And I guess it feels like that's just getting pointed out a lot, you know, like the loop of knowing. It's like feeling stuck in that and knowing that you're kind of stuck in that, or that there's just knowing. Like that's just like the objectification of everything just seems to be happening.
Yeah,
I guess
knowing that
ends up-
knowing that you're stuck in the loop is the loop almost. That's what it is then. You know, it's just it's another loop then. Loop is an interesting word, but yeah, it's another loop then, knowing that you're stuck in what is, or you're not stuck in the loop. It's just okay, is that definitely the case, or is it just, you know, it's definitely the case.
yeah, that feels inescapable, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frank,
Hiya.
it's Mika here.
Hiya,
Can
Mika.
you hear?
I can.
Yeah, this may sound a little off topic, but do you know the Disney hit? We don't talk about Bruno.
No, we don't talk about Bruno. No.
Yeah, because the point is that I heard a medieval version from that, and it took 1 week that I did take the joke, because there was this medieval philosophy, who talk like you talk, and he was burnt for heresy. It was Giordano Bruno.
Mm.
So this is like safe in our times to talk like this.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes thoughts about how this is just this. You see, on one hand, it's a description of nothing happening, but no idea then how that can be heard, and what sort of reaction, what sort of rage to that, like, you know, what sort of roaring rage. Don't you tell me, don't you dare, you know, because it's actually nothing. So then who dare would talk about nothing when nobody's talking about it? It's just sounds then. But you can see how it seems to be, well, safe and not safe, depending, you know. It's not, it's what it appears to be, and you know, it's still quite, is it fair to say that the uncompromising is still quite niche? I don't know, small in the scheme of all the others out there. It's quite tiny, really, you know. Because everything is about getting something, not just this. So normally it's dismissed. But you can see, you know, I remember sending on 0 and 1 to somebody, and they sent me a message back saying, can I have that hour back? That's a reaction. You know, can I have that hour of time back? And other reactions, I'm sure, this is absolutely horrendous bullshit, and this is boring, this is watching paint dry, or it's whatever. But yeah, it's safe and not safe. Like, it's Yeah, totally not safe as well, in the sense of this is, we're talking about inexplicable life, where the words inexplicable life are no, absolutely no use, that this is timeless, boundless, locationless, and all there is the hearing of sounds. All there is the hearing. So, you know, it's edgy enough as well, you know, from some, just, you know, from some, you know, anyway. Shh. Yeah, on my YouTube channel, I had some interviews censored. And I just think it's so funny in a way that the most dangerous thing on the channel, really and truly, the really most dangerous thing, you know, dangerous makes it sound like something, but you know what I'm saying? It's just kind of interesting, I think. All bets are off then, you see. Yeah. But it's dismissed and it's just, sure. My wife goes, shut the fuck up. Just shut up.
That is why everybody use BitChute.
Say that again.
The BitChute channel. Everybody
Oh.
use, instead of YouTube, the BitChute channel.
Mm. Yeah, seems to be people using it more and more. Yeah, and the likes of Rumble. I think there's more of a movement towards no censorship. I think that seems to be since the beginning of time. You know, you go and censor something, and it's like the last Temptation of Christ years ago. Remember in the 80s, it was banned in Ireland. What a way to make it a big movie. Go and ban it.
But how would this would be taken in dictator countries like North Korea?
Yeah, you sure? You know, it's the imaginations of to that answer. It's just pure imaginations. But you do wonder when something is so tight. You know, I've no idea. I'd only be, you know, imagining. But you just you imagine that it's so rigidly tight that a little bit of wind, might be enough on the face.
How are you, Frank?
Oh yeah.
I spoke to you there a few weeks ago, I think, from one of your Zooms, and I might have said the same thing then. I can't remember, but like the experience here, like for the last 20 years, has just been glimpses. You know, it just gazillions of them, and like they last always just a second, and then it's just in out, in out. And even if there's a glimpse, there's a quick realization. Like maybe I want to ask you a question about these glimpses, and then if there's a glimpse, it's like, I don't know, it's just there's no need to ask the question. The glimpse, you know what I mean, will be interpreted as there's no point in. There's no need for the question. I don't need the answer. You know what I mean? I suppose I'm just commenting on the fact that it's interesting that there's apparently, because millions of glimpses and then there's the contraction again. You know, that's it. Just that's the experience here. You know, in out, in out, in out.
Yeah, well, that's what's being described then. But you know, there is, I think, lost in images then of that makes it something. You know, glimpse, or you know, satori. We love that, like satori. I've had a satori, or a glimpse, and that's names that and defines it and boxes it into this, and then it's not this when that's not the case. So then it's more division, and it's lost in the images of it. That's what it would be like then. So then the movement is lost in images of that is what it would be like then to have that, or you know, and without all that, then there's still just, you know, there's still just how it is, and then there's the sensed feeling perhaps of, you know, then there's things like meing and being, and that's another one as well, that again, it's sort of makes this safe. It makes it knowable then. So the label machine goes, well, that's a description for that. So there's not one label or description that will make sense of this. This is beyond sense. There's no sense to this. This really genuinely, and despite all the labels for it, won't make it any safer, even though it can appear to make it feel safe. So then, you know, it's meing and being. And whilst this is going to say, there's already no one there, like already no one there inside. So there is the meing and being thing. That's a description that's appearing. And then there's the lost in the image of, oh, if that just unravels, then it'll just be beingness. And then there's the lost in images of beingness. There's so many words, and that just seems to be then, there's nothing you can do about that. The reality is that's just how it is unfolding, that there is no you doing that there already is no you. And then the movement is, I want to know, I want to be saying that there's no one. I want to know that. That's the, you know what I'm saying then? That's the kind of other lost in movement, and that's unfolding then. There's nothing can be done about that. It's not good or bad or whatever. That's just how it is then. But in a way, there's the lost in glimpses can almost be this idea of, and I could be wrong, but you know, sometimes it can be lost in the images of God. Look, I'm nearly there, haven't I? You know, I've got all these and all that. All the while, this is saying, there's just this though. And if that's happening, then that's how it is. You're not doing it. And so you won't do the finding and you won't do anything, but maybe all the descriptions for this will just fall asunder. And that's not a place to get to. Because really, you have to kind of hold the whole world together like this to go, well, this is that, and this is, and that is this, you know? So it's just, you know, just what is then. But still, all the while, you know, whatever story appears to be being told can just, I don't know, yeah, stop perhaps. And then stories will be told. There's nobody in there already doing any of that. So there's no way to get to, which is so annoying to hear, but there's no way to get to non-meing and being. But it's all that is lost as image of what it would be like then for all that to stop.
Yeah. I suppose there always is when the eye comes back. There is the want to stop, but it's just incredible. Like it is incredible. Even as you're talking there, like the eye, because eyes back could have counted 10 glimpses, 10 times. All of a sudden, it was just complete falling. And I kept laughing at you as you were sort of giving me the answer, because everything for a second just became completely meaningless. And it was just, it felt like just falling, you know, like just utter nowhere to land, nowhere, just fucking crazy. Like there's another one. For a second, there's an interpretation. This is nuts. And then all of a sudden, I'm sitting on the bed again, and you know, Frank is there, and everything's there. And then it just gets nuts again because there's nothing, you know.
This is already nowhere to land. It is falling somehow. Then chair, breathing, talking, and all that is the description used for falling. But it doesn't make it anything other. It doesn't make it anything special.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, it is falling in nowhereness.
Yeah, but that's what
But,
it feels like.
there
Totally.
there isn't a landing or a falling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it feels that it's quick, but utter falling, like utter nothingness, utter not even sure if this is happening. And it just becomes this fucking wow. Just nuts. The interpretation is nuts. And then, look, I suppose I was just commenting on the fact that it's interesting that in, out.
Mm.
But, yeah, there you go.
There you go now, yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Frank?
Yep.
Okay, I'm thinking about like what you were just saying about this sense of free falling and there's nowhere to land, no positionality, and using all these concepts, you know, to feel safe. And it seems like that would leave you in a state, or not a state, or just sheer terror, you know, knowing anything can happen. The what is can be anything. And yet everyone who talks on this seems to have paradoxically the opposite. You know, that's when this is seen, it seems to be the opposite of that. You know,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
opposite
If there was someone, they could be terrified. They would be terrified of this, and then there's lost in the imaginations of being terrified of this. You know, whereas
Yeah.
that's all that is. Then, you know, that's what's being described, and lost in the imaginations of that. Whereas really, this is just saying this is nothing happened, and that's just that all really that is all that can be said, and yet, blah de blah de blah 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 blah. You know, so.
Yeah.
Free fall, boundlessness, liberation. Ta, ta, ta. We'll get the orchestra out and we'll sing a gazillion songs, and it won't get closer and it won't get further away to ordinary. This.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Frank.
Oh, yeah.
It's a random one, this one. It's about sort of religion. And it was only because I was talking to my mother yesterday. We were starting to debate religion. She'd be far more religious than I would. And I just suppose query everything now. Or, so I was wondering, Seth pointedly, it was about Jesus. And I was kind of thinking, do you know that we were so invested in Jesus, let's say, Catholics or Christians or whatever, what this man said 2,000 years ago. And I'd be kind of thinking, like a fella said something 2,000 years ago, and it's been passed down by word of mouth since then. And the propensity for humans to, interpret a story with bias. So to me, there could have been a big game of Chinese whispers for 2,000 years where, like, are we absolutely sure what he was saying, with gospel and, how can we be sure what he was saying after 2,000 years, but yet we've such faith in it? And so I suppose what I'm saying is, like, in one respect, that's a huge loop, like a grey area for me. How can we be possibly sure? But the thing about it is, I suppose I'm just wondering is, Jesus himself, like, why did we get behind him, do you think? Or was he maybe someone, I don't know, that had maybe realized this and he just got a following and a huge aura? Or like, why did we get, how come so many people, a huge religion built, like, have you any opinion on it? Why did we get behind that so much? Does that make sense?
Oh, it's if you look at the way how it is, like, mommy and daddy, and first there's nobody, mommy and daddy, then there's somebody must know, and so then the priests know, and Jesus says it, and all that. It's just all seems to be, somebody must know this to make it safe and validate this, and that seems to be the wanting to feel safe is the movement then. But yeah, so much, like, there's you could talk for hours and that, like, who knows, but there's I think it's safety, and somebody must know, and then there's God. So God is looking after us, and he'll make it fine, or whatever. He'll make this. So it's another story to be lost in an authority, but everything is about authority, and there seems to be comfort in that for some. I don't know. Then for others, just be totally dissatisfying. So the why and the why not of it all, sure. Where do you begin and end that sort of thing? And there's so many studies. I was always curious about St. Thomas. There's they only stuck 4 gospels in there. Apparently there's a gazillion gospels, but they picked 4 of them. And then, Mary Magdalene's gospel wasn't any good. We put that one away. St. Thomas's wasn't any good. But again, who knows? Like, it's just it's amazing. Like,
yeah,
it's amazing. I mean, if you look at the theater of when a pope is made, with the red robes and the bishops, I mean, it's just wondrous theater. I mean, you just be going, well done, everyone. This is brilliant, unbelievable. Everybody, it's all real and serious and all that, Well done. The Pope, right? There's a thing called the Pope, and bishops and priests, and they're in the know, and the great unwashed are in the not in the know, and and that's just then how, yeah. But the how and the why and all that, look, you could be there for wherever. Jesus probably was great crack, though.
No, that's what I say to my mother when we're fighting over. I say he's probably a great fellow. 100%.
It's probably great crack, really. He turned the water into wine. Seems all right by me. Oh, for fuck's sake. Jesus. Jeebus. Save me, Jeebus.
Yeah, well, he's a big brand anyway. Like, Did well for himself.
He's a big brand, yeah. A big, huge brand, yeah. It's interesting that, isn't it? That's, yeah, big brand. There was no Jesus, like. There's nobody under the eyes, under the crown of the head called Jesus. There's just a body and sounds. And then the meaning makers found meaning, and what a brilliant story of Jesus. Good old Jesus. Tom saying, we can't know what Jesus said, but we can hear you now, Frank. Oh. Oh, yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant, Tom. It's funny, the idea of specialness, though. It's like if you take Christianity, the miraculous nature of birth, right? That's not enough. It had to be a virgin birth. It wasn't special. It's not special enough. Let's make it a virgin one. And, you know, it's just everything is special. So because somebody in the end must know, and that way I can follow and feel safe. There's no safety here. There's no safety anywhere. Apparently safe. what we're talking about is inexplicable this. Always this here-ness. You won't catch it, nor will you catch your attempt to catch it. But that's it. It's just this. And it's nobody's. Have a great evening or morning or whatever. All right. See you later.
too. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Bye.
Frank.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Later.
See you.